Hi there, I'm David Bradley, aka Tech Dave, and today we're looking at the eGPU setup I slightly demoed in my further video as per the request of a lovely chap called Laptop Retrospective. And we're testing on the T430s, the Thinkpad T430s with 8 gigs of RAM, 240 gig SSD, 240 gig mSATA SSD and 1 TB hard drive. Now I'm running the game off a 1 TB hard drive, so that'll be consistent across the board. The only thing we're going to change in the benchmarks will be the external graphics card being connected or not. So let's check this out. So first things first, we're going to look at what GPU we have. So I'm going to go to a, well, I'll just straight up tell you actually. It's the NVIDIA Quadro 600. So this is like a workstation graphics card. So we're not going to see like huge upgrade to performance, but it's going to be significant upgrade hopefully in terms of frames per second from the Intel HD 4000 graphics which the T430s comes with as it is. So as you can see, the benchmark utility we're going to be using is actually going to be the reboot of Tomb Raider, the first reboot. So we're going to start out with as low as possible, and we're going to start with the eGPU, and then we're going to see how many frames per second we lose without it. So we're going to go right down to this resolution because it was eating, because I basically did this whole video before, and we're going to start on low with VSync off, 60 Hz, monitor aspect ratio auto, and then in the advanced you can see there's not much going on there in terms of like excessive graphical output. So we're going to boot into that, and then we're going to run the benchmark utility within. So with the eGPU we've got max 56, so nearly 60 frames per second, lows of 34.9, an average of 46.4, so that's not too bad. That's a reasonable variable, but a reasonable frame rate for playing this game. So I'm recording on my phone because OBS decided to hog all the system resources and nearly crash my system. So what I'm going to do next is show you the benchmark results for the exact same graphic settings, but using the internal Intel HD 4000 graphics. OBS hasn't been playing nice. I shall film more on my phone. So now you can see we've got exactly the same settings: low, VSync off, same resolution, blah 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 blah, but with the Intel HD 4000 graphics. So I'll show you this as well. Blah 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 blah. Okay, and then we're going to pop into the game and do a benchmark, and then I'll be back with the benchmark results. As you can see, we've got a minimum 30 frames per second, maximum 48, and an average of 40. So we've lost a third of our frame rate by disconnecting the eGPU. So let's go into the setup and a bit more information. So here is the graphics card we're using, and it's the NVIDIA Quadro 600. And so it's a workstation graphics card. So if you use a proper gaming graphics card for this, you're going to see probably just huge improvement over this. But because as you can see, it's only 1 gig DDR3. And there's all the sort of relevant specs for it. So I'll leave that on the screen just for a second for you to look at and peruse and enjoy for your leisure. But yeah, I've used this with the GTX 560 Ti overclocked, and with the GTX 750 Ti overclocked, and both of them smashed out massive improvements in graphics. But I just want to show you a bit of the specs and give you an idea of, like, we're only looking at some, because I think the Intel HD 400 I believe only gives you, 4000 gives you like 256 to 512 megabytes of DDR3 RAM to work with. So I'm just going to put the specs on that actually. Hold on, I'll be as back. So as you can see here, we've got 1.7 gig, and it's with only 32 megabytes of dedicated video memory, shared video memory 0, So it's still a significant upgrade having the Quadro, but because it's running, the Quadro is only GDDR3, not GDDR5 like the other graphics cards I've got. So I might get them out in a bit, but I've already had a very, very long night. So I'm just going to show you how to set up the device and a bit of troubleshooting and things like that you can do. So I'll be back in one moment with that. So the laptop we're using to demonstrate the setup of the eGPU is the X230i. Let me just unplug that properly, there we go. The X230i that was demoed in the Project Cerberus video. And we're going to go through the whole installation process, hopefully. And the first thing I would recommend doing, so I'm going to bring the webcam around, is the following. So, we boot, click the Thinkpad button rapidly like a mad bugger, which failed, so let's try again. Shut that down, shut it down. Right, let's try one more time. Basically, you've got to enter the BIOS. There we go, enter the BIOS on your Thinkpad, then F1. So you just click enter or the Thinkpad button to enter the BIOS. And as you can see, we've currently got, it's the Core i3 2.4 gigahertz, 4 gigs of RAM. So what you want to do is you want to go to config and then power, and then go down to express card speed. You can see I've already done it here, but you want to change that to generation 1, and then everything else should be fine. But I find it's way more stable if you change it to generation 1 in that particular area. Everything else should be fine. Now we need to, hold on, I'll be back in a second. So I'll show you around the rest of the eGPU setup, but effectively what you want to do, once you've got your GPU setup, which hopefully will feature earlier in the video, you want to take this express card, slidey jobber doobly dobber, and put that in the side, just here to the left, and it should sort of click into place. You hear a nice satisfying click. And then I'm not sure if I've actually booted this before, so I'm going to do it on Windows 7, which I know doesn't have it yet. Actually, we'll try Windows 10. So boot up once you've added the graphics card. Oh, that's not uncommon for that to happen. It sort of boots on and then boots off, and then it should come back on again. There we go. When you first install the express card port, jobby doobra. Oh. Okay, I'll be back once I've resolved. So, voila, here we have a mysterious PC case. Now, I'm just going to open it up and show you around. So, this actual case is just an old, well, not an old, but a currently unused entire mini ITX, I think it's mini ITX, PC case, which is a perfect size, because what we basically got in here, we've got the power supply, the graphics card, and the dock, and a HDMI extender which goes to this little bad boy. So I'll show you a bit more of it once I've dismantled it. So the basic components that come in the box are this little bad boy, which is connected directly, hold on, let me undo the dock a little bit better as well. So your graphics card slots in, well, let's get some focus on this bad boy. Graphics card slots in here, just as it would, just look like it's the same as a PCI Express 16 lane port on a desktop graphics card. And then this little port here is where you connect this delightful adapter, and this 8-pin end goes in there, and then you connect this from your graphics card, from your PSU to one of them, and then you should have an adapter that looks like, where is it? Where's it gone? This, which is traditionally used to power the motherboard itself. So these are both the motherboard connectors. Where are they? There they are. And then I can't show you this easily, but let's see, let's get a bit of distance and that might make it a bit easier. Right, dizzying, nauseating camera angles there. So we take this adapter that comes with the dock and plug in one end here, lining it up with the little clip there, and one here lining up again with the clip, and mine is off at a slight angle. I don't know whether you can see that. I don't know whether I'm being very informative here or not, I'm just sort of showing you the basics, but it clips in like that, clips in like that, and then you just take your graphics card, slide it in, should theoretically just slide in, there we go. Then the next thing you want to do is take this, oh, hold on, this adapter, which if you're using the express card, well, they all have HDMI on them, but it's a proprietary one. Don't plug it into any other devices because it'll destroy them. And then the express card at the other end. And then on this side here, we have an HDMI port. Let's see. You can tell I'm not used to doing these kind of videos. There we go, HDMI port there. This then plugs into. Now all I've done with my setup is get a female, hold on, an extender with, from Amazon Basics I think it was, so a female HDMI at one end and a male HDMI at the other end, and just extended that so that when you've got it tucked away you've got like much more reach to go to your express card port. So I would recommend doing that. Power supply depends entirely on your graphics card basically, because it's only powering the graphics card. It just, so I've only got like, what is it, I think it's a 350 watt, I can't remember, but I've got a roughly 350 watt graphics power supply, and I'm getting a bit stressed, so I'll be back in a sec. Okay, so after the soothing power of nicotine, whoa, trippy, we've got our PC case filled with all appropriate gubbins, and then so it makes quite a neat little, hold on, it makes quite a neat little setup. If you get one of these cheap like micro mini ATX cases, just as it is, empty case, hook your power supply in as you would in any normal desktop setup, and then follow all the vague instructions. I will probably include a video link at least to where I got some of my setup information from, because there's loads of ideas and loads of people do it different ways, but mine basically is one contained unit here, and then before you turn it on, obviously you want to plug in the power, hold on, plug in your power cable, and then you want the device off, you want your laptop off before you power on the GPU. So hold on, and basically, yeah, you just, after you've done that, you plug the power in first, and then you just plug this into your laptop, boot up, and you have a working eGPU setup in theory. There's I think it's eGPU.io, I'll leave a link, is where I did all my troubleshooting, because this is a notoriously difficult process in terms of stability and reliability and the different graphics cards you can use with the different systems, but in my experience ThinkPads tend to be quite reliable, and anything except the middle 10 series of graphics cards, so like there's issues with, fuck me, I'm so wobbly with the camera, pardon my French, yeah, you tend to get issues with the 10 series graphics cards being a bit unstable, but there's little BIOS mods and hardware mods you can do, and software mods But I'm not going to cover any of that because I didn't have to do any of that. And with every ThinkPad I've had the same consistent experience. So if you've got the X230 or any variant of that, or the T430s or the X200, it's pretty much exactly this process. Exactly this process. And just make sure that you get the express card version of this for your laptop, because it's just the most practical for a ThinkPad. You don't have to dismantle your laptop like you do in other eGPU setups, and that's partially why I actually chose to continue buying ThinkPads, was because of the availability of the eGPU. So unless I think of anything else to sort of ramble on about vaguely and randomly like I did, this has been my basic overview of the eGPU setup, how it works, and what kind of improvements you can get with your ThinkPad. It's just a very brief, vague overview. And there's so many more people that have done so much better at it, but I promised I would do it, so I did. And this is my eGPU B-Stock setup, a review and guide. Cheers.